Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let's talk a little bit about what's happening of a case of mistaken identity. Should police pay for therapy? We're going to have that conversation. Also, let's talk a little bit about the NBA under investigation by the Department of Justice for its treatment of the Big Three League by Ice Cube. We'll talk a little bit about that. Later on, I'll have special guest Mark Buddington, director of the film Women of the Jury, joining us, and a whole lot more. Stay with us. It's all happening on today's edition of The Culture on the Black Star Network. Let's go. Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation, folks. We got a lot to talk about. First, let's just do our due diligence and let you know that we are streaming on a number of different platforms, including BlackStarNetwork.com. We're also streaming on the platform of Amazon News on your Fire TV, as well as Amazon Prime Video, and you can also find us on Freevee TV, as well as on Plex TV, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So make sure that y'all do your due diligence and check us out on all of those platforms. Also, we are also streaming on social media on Facebook, as well as YouTube. So you can find us there, and we're streaming under Roland Martin's YouTube page on YouTube. And that's where you'll also find the illustrious Culture Crew. Folks, we're gonna do this. Let's take a quick pause. We're going to fix one technical piece of this, and then we're going to jump right into the conversation. Get ready to have the discussions with me as we first talk about this case of mistaken identity. So stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being with us on this Friday. Happy Friday, Culture Crew. Happy Friday. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And I'm very excited to just have another dynamic show with you as we talk about some of the big stories and some of the things that are happening in Black America and that is happening within the culture. Let's first start talking about this case. I saw this case, and I thought I'd bring it up to our attention because I think it speaks volumes about the relationship between Black folks and the police, the Black community and the police. This is the case of mistaken identity. Some of you may have heard this case. And it's the case out of where one woman, her name is Shanice Stewart, and her son Brandon were pulled over by police officers who believed the third grader was a teen wanted for 2 felonies. This was a case of mistaken identity. This happened in the state of California here in the city of Sacramento in Northern California. And apparently on October 17th, there was a situation. Miss Shanice Stewart, who is a hairstylist, she and her son were riding down the road on October 17th when they were pulled over by police at 5 p.m. that night. The police drew their guns out, believing the third grader was this teenager. wanted on 2 felonies. And I want to share with you just a little bit from this story from NBC. Let's go to this first quote here, at least. So this is what happened. So Shanice was riding in the car with her son on October the 17th. And then when they were pulled over, the police had already drawn their guns, believing this third grader was wanted on 2 felonies. There were 4 Sacramento police officers and a helicopter that surrounded Stewart and her son that night as she drove him to football practice. Now, Ms. Stewart initially feared the officers would shoot her, but soon learned that they were actually there for her son. She said, quote, "That's when I was more so hurt. I was like, my 8-year-old, my baby, are you serious? I was hurt. I was angry, terrified for him. I don't understand how a mistake can go toward an 8-year-old. It could have ended so badly." And that's part of this whole situation. The whole situation was this case of mistaken identity and how far the police had gone to try to apprehend this individual who they thought was the suspect. Now, according to NBC News, Sacramento police told them in a statement this week that the officer had been tracking the pair since they left their home. But you didn't know that that third grader was a third grader, okay? Police were looking for, according to the statement, police were looking for a, quote, juvenile who was wanted for 2 felony warrants, including a warrant for gun possession, and believed it necessary to perform a high-risk stop when they thought they found the suspect. They added that they are reviewing the situation. According to their statement, we must acknowledge that a case of mistaken identity occurred. Our officers provided an explanation and an apology to the mother and her son. Our department has been in contact with the mother since the incident. We recognize the impact that police interactions can have on our community members. Let me show a picture of Shanice Stewart. And at least let me know if there's a picture of Shanice Stewart that you can pull up, Shanice Stewart and her son, Brandon, just to give everybody a sense of what this mother and son were to look like. But the fact is that Brandon, her son, her third grader son, angered and upset. That's them right there. Yep, that's them. They were so angered and upset that now she's asking for the police to pay for his therapy. And I wanted to get your take on this, crew. Let me know what your thoughts are if you're streaming right now on Roland Martin's YouTube page. Do you think that the police need to pay for therapy for Shanice Stewart and her son because of this very, very unfortunate mistake of a mistaken identity, unfortunate case of mistaken identity? Post your comments in the chat. We would love to hear what you have to say on this situation. But this speaks volumes. This speaks volumes about how much work that needs to be done within the Black community. Let me also share this part with you. Let's go to quote 2 on this, please, Liz. When Stewart said that police contacted the day after the incident to explain what happened, she said she had filed a complaint with the city's Internal Affairs Division. Ultimately, she wants a genuine apology and for the department to cover the cost of therapy for her son to heal from the ordeal. She says he's definitely going to have to deal with therapy for a while. He's never been through that before, being pulled over and having a gun pulled out on him. We both are going through pain and suffering, compensation for pain and suffering, because this is going to cause some things in the future. And guess who she has retained for her lawyer in this process, crew? Our brother, a man that we have, that we know. Let me make sure that she is looking for something to be done out of this situation. And she's looking to get some high-priced lawyers and trying to figure out how to move forward. Like, what should she do? But I think the conversation or the question of should the police pay for this level of therapy? I think this is very, very interesting. And I think it would change the game. So let me know what your take is on this. Post your comments as we are streaming right now on Roland Martin's YouTube page. What is your take on this situation? Look, we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, Let us know what your thoughts are, and then we're going to continue with some other conversations. But folks, stay tuned. It's The Culture right here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We're talking about the case of Shanice Stewart and her son, Brandon, who is an interesting case, a case of mistaken identity when Sacramento Police Department thought that her son was a teenager who had committed 2 major felonies. And so they pulled Shanice Stewart and her 3rd grader son over with guns drawn, police cars everywhere, and even a helicopter to shine a light on her car as a result of this apprehension of this quote unquote suspect, only to find out that the person that they were after wasn't Shanice Stewart, it was her 3rd grader son. And when they found out that the boy was only in 3rd grade, they just simply said, oh, we're sorry. Now Shanice Stewart is looking for some level of compensation, and she wants the police department to pay for her son Brandon's therapy. What's your take on that, folks, as we talk about this? All right, let me see. Cindy D, you said his civil rights were violated. Good to hear from you, Cindy. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't even think, you know what, y'all, yeah, let's think about it. I don't know how many people have been pulled over by police for mistaken identity. But I don't know if if there's a fund for that, or, how the police would handle that. Like, how many times does that happen in a given year for a given department? But it would be interesting to know, do they set aside money for that? Do you kind of pay out a little bit for that? Because most police departments just kind of say, oh, my fault, and just kind of move on. So it is interesting. Yeah, Conscious Thought, you said the police would not treat that mother and her son that way if they believed them to be human beings worthy of humane treatment. I agree. I agree, Conscious Thought. Thank you, brother, for checking in. Pauline, you said they should go on TV and make an apology. Absolutely. Yep. I understand that. Conscious Thought, you also said therapy is the least that the police should pay. I think if the police paid, you imagine, y'all, if the police paid for therapy each time they did something traumatic, maybe that will help curb the violence, the brutality. I know there have been some calls for police to when somebody is brutalized, that it should come out of the pocket of the individual officer and not just the department. I know there have been discussions about that. But I haven't heard too much discussions for police paying for therapy. So each time your officer brutalizes brutalizes a citizen, and the citizen has the right to choose whether they want to go to therapy or not, the police should cover it. Can y'all imagine that would be a dope ass policy. ABX girl, you said, good to hear from you, ABX girl. You said New York Police Department has full insurance. They are so rich. New York City just writes out checks instead of court. Absolutely. Some of these departments are huge. New York has one of the largest departments. Los Angeles has one of the largest departments, which it should because the cities are large. But I could only imagine if they can do something like that. If they set aside some of these police departments, I'm not sure if it's across the board, AVX girl, but maybe you can tell me, or anyone else in the chat can tell me. Some of these departments do set aside money just for these type of cases, or it may not be a mistaken identity case, it might be a brutality case, right? Like when these states give money to the police department, they have to account for the fact that you're going to have a certain number of cases that will have to be settled in court. Some past cases, some current cases that want to require compensation. And so it is going to be interesting, to say the least, how the police department should hold that. Many of you are saying, here comes Ben Crump. We already know. Ben Crump, look, I was looking through this and I wanted to make sure. I didn't see his name in this particular article, but I believe he has been called in on this case. But maybe, and I'm going to have my team double check that, if Ben Crump is associated with this, because Ben Crump is the lawyer that you call when you want compensation. That's all I'm gonna say, y'all. He understands the situation, and I'll never forget when he said, my role is to come into these places, to these cities, and break the banks of these police departments. And so that way, that's how he believes a form of justice would work. You break the budget of these police departments with multi-million-dollar lawsuits, they're going to think twice about brutalizing Black and brown folk. So I think that is, I mean, if you're a lawyer, you're going to have to eat the case, right? I mean, I think that is true. Real Brooklyn, you said, I think the Sacramento Police Department needs to review their police officers' vision requirements. No part of that picture tells me that he is a person with multiple felony warrants. Here's the thing, and I'm gonna change as we kind of just end this out. The thing is, they've been tracking them since they left the house. Real Brooklyn, I think you and me, bro, can understand as grown-ass men what a little boy looks like. Lisa, let's show that picture one more time. Let's show that picture one more time. Look at this. How do you look at him walking out the door, his stature, his beautiful curly hair, and you track them? This is got to be one of the worst police situations. One of them, in terms of mistaken identity. How do you take a little boy like that and say, oh, he looks like a teenager? That is crazy. And I'm with Ms. Stewart on this, y'all. I don't want no blanket with sorry, because the impact of this is real. This is the age where little boys in third grade say, this is a very pivotal age. I want y'all to walk with me on this one, and then we're going to take our pause. This is the age where little boys start to come into their own and start to see things about the world and say, you know what, I want to be this person or that person. So we don't know what prior view this little young brother Brandon had before this incident, but he could have been like, you know what, mommy, I want to be a police officer. I want to help people. And then this happens. I want to be a fire person. I want to help people. This happens. Okay, so that's one thing. Then the second thing about this situation, which is really, really crazy to me, is just the simple fact that he is going to have to live with this. He sees his mother in distress. So that's going to stick with him for the rest of his life, right? Like, he's going to equate police to stress and disorder and fear and all of those things at the third grade, right? This is also the time of his little brother's life where they say that, that school to prison pipeline starts, it starts in the third grade. So as a little boy, he's going to have to kind of slowly kind of reacclimate himself in seeing police officers in a proper light, but it's going to require some work and it's going to require some time. So it's a situation that for her to say, look, I want the police to pay for his therapy. It may seem crazy, but I understand the sentiment because it's more damaging to him than it is to her. He might grow up and say, you know what? I remember the police officers manhandled my mom one time when I was the little boy, and I never forget that. And he can have a huge chip on his shoulder for those in authority, whether it's police, whether it's teachers, whether it's his supervisor at work. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Now, I know some of you probably think, oh man, Faraji, that's going too far. But no, but if y'all think back, and if I think back on those moments in our childhood and how they manifested or played out or how they impacted us through adulthood, this is one of those moments. I think this is one of those moments. All right, let me see. Let me see something here. Let me see if I can get one instead. Conscious Start, you said, as Brother Roland Martin has repeatedly stated, monies should come out of the pensions or pockets of the police officers themselves. Yep. But if they paying for therapy, that should be courtesy of the Sacramento Police Department. Sacramento Police Department. Tiana, you said that baby is traumatized. Why pull a gun on a baby? Because they can't see, Tiana. Because they can't see if it's a baby, probably sitting in a car seat versus a teenager. ABX Girl, you said in response to my question about money for larger police departments, you said larger cities do set, they have insurance and high taxes to cover it. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we're going to have to see if Ben Crump is involved in this case and how this case will play out. But I hope it does play out. And I hope Miss Shanice Stewart gets the help that she needs. I hope her son, little brother Brandon, gets the help that he needs. And I hope the police department pays. Because just saying, I'm sorry, just pulling out while you pulled out guns, have a helicopter, 4 officers surround your cars, it's not cutting it. It's not enough. We deserve better, and we certainly deserve more. All right, folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, let's check in with my guy, Scotty, from Off Script TV, to talk to us about how the NBA is now under investigation from the Department of Justice because of his treatment of the Big Three League founded by Ice Cube. I'll share with you the details of that. So stay with us. The culture continues on the other side right here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture. Weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. I see some folks are still kind of chatting about the situation out of Sacramento with with our sister, Shanice Stewart, her son, Brandon. Let me just take a couple of more thoughts on this, and then we're going to shift gears and talk a little bit about what's going on with the NBA. Truth is power. Truth is power. Welcome. Good to hear from you. You said the reason why these officers do this is because they pump so much money into qualified immunity for police protection that they don't have no fear of any. That's why we have to vote. And I think to your point, truth is power, I think you're making a great point. I think a lot of money is to protect police, whether it's through qualified immunity or also if you look at the policies of the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, in any state, they are there. They're not going to kick out bad actors within the department. They're going to do their part to protect them, to ensure that they're going to get some sort of, they're going to still get some sort of severance or ensure that they're going to get any type of money. But they're not there to say, you know what, shouldn't be a police officer. Therefore, you're not getting our resources. You're not getting our protection. So to your point, truth is power, I think that is true that there a lot of money is going into protecting officers instead of departments and saying, look, it's only the right thing to do. It's only the right thing to do. Because there's no way in 2023, police departments should be making these kinds of mistakes. Okay, let's not expect, because there's no department that's perfect. So yes, they can make a mistake, but here's where they can change it. Just because they made it's a case of mistaken identity, doesn't mean they shouldn't do right by the families who are affected the most by it. And that's a different thing, folks. Like, we all gonna make mistakes. How you recover from the mistake determines the type of person that you really are. How you make amends determines the type of character you have. What is the character of these departments? It's one thing that, and I know sometimes we get excited that we have Black folks in positions of power and leadership, at the chief or as the captain or, in these very high ranking positions. But then at the end of the day, it's like, if you're the captain over madness, the chief of bullshit, you know what I'm saying? Or you the major of tomfoolery and foolishness, like, what does it matter? What does it matter? What does it matter to have a Black face in position of power if that Black person don't think about other Black people? If you're not going into that position and to really change it, and I'm talking about making one or two substantial changes, because, after a while, people are like, all right, you can't completely reform the system. Okay, but one or two substantial changes to a system as dysfunctional as our relationship between Black folks and the police, one substantial change can mean a world of difference. If Sacramento Police Department were to say, hey, we're going to make officers pay, we're going to pay for we started a fund for mental health services. So when officers do abuse the citizens, we're going to back up the citizens in that case. Makes a world of difference. Makes a world of difference. So we're going to keep our eyes on this situation, but I wanted to, truth is power, I wanted to recognize your point, and I think it's a very, very good point. And I think that we have to keep in mind that Black faces in places doesn't always mean that we're going to be seen or in the right spaces. Didn't mean to rhyme, but I'm just saying, we need to look at substantial change. And in 2023, I don't want to hear no officer saying, I didn't know. I wasn't thinking. We're sorry. In 2023, after supposed racial reckoning of the summer protests about the verdict of George Floyd, around the killing of George Floyd, you mean in 2023, we're still making these types of mistakes? Please. All right, folks, we're going to take another pause. When we come forward, let's talk about the NBA and DOJ. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about Blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20036-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Black Star Network is here.
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Hatred on the streets, a horrific scene, a white nationalist rally that descended into deadly violence.
White people are losing their damn minds.
As an angry pro-Trump mob storms the U.S. Capitol, we've seen shooting.
We're about to see the rise of what I call white minority resistance. We have seen white folks in this country who simply cannot tolerate Black folks voting.
I think what we're seeing is the inevitable result of violent denial.
This is part of American history. Every time that people of color have made progress, whether real or symbolic, there has been what Carol Anderson at Emory University calls white rage as a backlash.
This is the rise of the Proud Boys and the Boogaloo Boys. America, there's going to be more of this.
Here's all the Proud Boys, guys.
This country is getting increasingly racist in its behaviors and its attitudes because of the fear of white people.
The fear that they're taking our jobs, they're taking our resources, they're taking our women. This is white fear.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Happy Friday. All right, let's talk a little bit. Hey, crew, did y'all know about this situation? And I was trying to get my brother Scotty to come on and join us, but we're going to have to see if we can circle back to my brother. Because this is interesting, and it speaks volumes about, it's just another example of when folks try to do stuff on our own, it can never just be let them live. Here's why. The department, let's show this first quote, please, Elise, on this situation. This is the NBA now is under an investigation by the Department of Justice for its interference of the growth of the Big Three League. Y'all know the Big Three League. This is the league that was created by Ice Cube and others. Well, the DOJ filed an inquiry last month into the NBA allegedly using their name and popularity to prevent sponsors from working with the Big Three and discouraging TV networks from giving the growing league exposure. Of course, the NBA has denied all accusations, but for months, Ice Cube has alleged the NBA has been actively trying to shun his Big Three league, even though he's made numerous attempts to work with them. Now, according to the report, current NBA players are interested in playing in the Big Three league, but the NBA placed arbitrary rules to prevent them from doing so. Final paragraph here, folks. Referees are also involved as they are not allowed to officiate any games for the Big Three, even though they work for other companies outside of the NBA. If the Department of Justice finds the league committed the alleged antitrust violations, the NBA could be hit with a huge fine. See, when we have these conversations about doing other things, right? Here's what I want us to keep in mind, folks. I was taught these things. There are things that we weren't taught when we came out of chattel slavery. Three knowledges that we weren't allowed to have, which is part of the understanding how business is warfare, right? So when we came out of chattel slavery, we thinking like, oh, okay, we're free and we're in this new place. But we don't understand that sometimes our very existence and presence creates a problem for those who have been oppressing us and those who have tried to control us. Now, I'm wondering how this situation is going to pan out, because if we don't understand that when you set up something that's not necessarily directly opposed, but is a promising alternative from from those in power have established, you become a threat. You become a threat. So we do have to understand the science of business and understanding that in America, business is warfare. So if there are a group of owners that decide to create a retail store that Walmart made, and I'm just using this as an example, I'm not saying that this is happening, but just using this as an example, that if there are a group of investors that say, look, we're black investors, and say, look, we're going to, instead of Walmart, let's create something for our people that can feature, black fashion designers, black retail products, all of these things just for us. And let's create it as an alternative. If Walmart, if any other institution or retail space sees that as a potential threat, they may try to shut it down. And this is what we're seeing with this NBA situation. This is the Department of Justice. This is not like, oh, somebody just talking just to be talking. This is the Department of Justice, who's looking at the actions of the National Basketball Association and is finding that if the DOJ is filing an inquiry, meaning that they just want to take a look, because they might have gotten some rumblings, not just from Ice Cube, but they might have gotten some evidence from other places. So they're like, all right, let's file this inquiry. Let's inquire to see what's going on. And if they're finding that the NBA is in a space of trying to move players away from Ice Cube's Big Three, You see how amazing that is? Now, knowing this, how many people are going to protest the NBA season this year? Because the season's about to start, right? Pastor Damon Blissett, my brother, you said Ice Cube is correct on this one. My opinion. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If he's saying it's like the Colin Kaepernick, if there is evidence of collusion among the owners, right, to not hire Cap for the position, not even give him a trial. So we were talking about the NFL. We dogged the NFL on those certain things. Racial justice. Oh, man, it's terrible. Now we get to the NBA. Now, the NBA, for those who may not know, but the NBA has a little bit more leniency when it comes to social justice issues. You know, when you have major players like a LeBron James and Kevin Durant and others who have decided, but I'm going to use LeBron. LeBron is the face of the NBA. He's one of the most vocal social justice advocates within the NBA. It doesn't even matter what if the person that he's advocating for plays basketball or not. If he's going to use his voice and his platform. And the NBA says, okay, we're going to take that. Okay, that's not a problem. You can wear certain shirts. That's not a problem. And Pastor Damon, you know what I mean? Like he does all of these things. But when it comes down to the money and to the talent, that's when the warfare starts. That's when the warfare starts, right? Because you're not going to start siphoning money off of the NBA to support your Big Three league. Now, this is the Big Three. This is not the NBA, folks. This is an alternative space. Matter of fact, in the same piece from Complex, this is where this story comes from Complex, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, DeMar DeRozan, James Harden, and more have played in summer leagues such as the Drew League. And so if they played in other leagues during the summer to keep themselves in shape, to keep themselves on point for their games, but they can't play in the Big Three, the allegation goes farther in saying the alleged squash of the Big Three league also goes as far as NBA owners being averted from investing in Ice Cube's company. What are they doing to this man? And why are they doing it? Why do they see Big Three as being such a threat? Y'all see what I'm saying? Now, I know when you might not view, some of us might have issues with Cube and his politics, but the man is under attack. The man is being shut out from this situation, right? If he has gone to the NBA and said, look, here's my league, this is what I'll adjust the schedule so it doesn't interfere with this, and I just want to get, and you got, and the NBA tell you, no, we're not doing that, and then they go to another league during the summer. Referees can't officiate your games, right? You can't even have owners invested in your platform. Talk to me, y'all. Talk to me. Talk to me. Pastor Damon, you said the Big Three doesn't compete with the NBA. It runs during the summertime. Facts. That's why that part about the Drew League coming up. So you got your star players playing in the summertime for the Drew League, but they can't play for their brother. Okay. Taylor, lack of accounting skills and business education will shut it down quicker than anything. Absolutely. Absolutely. Real Brooklyn, you said Congress enacted the antitrust law to check corporate power, but today these laws seem to maintain the corporate dominance. Unfortunately, Black businesses seem to be negatively affected by this. Great point. Great point. You don't like my music? You said Liz Warren ran on antitrust in 2020. That's mainly why I supported her. So you have this thing seeing, and we see this in the corporate world, right? To your point, right, Real Brooklyn, to the point where if a tech company, we look at like the social media world. I know that like Facebook or Meta, the company Meta behind Facebook, behind all of this, Instagram, Meta is a major company in that if another company tries to get into the same business, the same space, that Meta can't, there are those antitrust laws where you can't try to infringe upon the growth of another company by using your dominance in the market space? Come on, man. Come on, man. So what I'm saying here is, as we close this out, what is going to be the response from Black America? Now, how many of us are going to be like, well, I don't like Ice Cube because of his politics. He sat down with this person. He talked about this. He done it like that. But does he deserve, where he started a league out of the desire to want to create an alternative playing space for Black players and for other players and for past and current players? He started the league. Now, I remember, and y'all may remember this, when he first started the league, a lot of people laughed at Ice Cube about this. They like, man, that league is not going to do nothing, man. Nobody gonna come to you and watch your games. But that league has actually grown in popularity, right? And you know how you know you're a major somebody? When the big somebody starts taking notice of you, right? When the big somebody starts looking at you and saying, I don't like how the little somebody is moving, so let's put some roadblocks, let's put some barriers up so the little somebody don't become a big somebody. And that's what we're seeing here, folks. So again, I'm asking the question, how many of us are planning to boycott the league this year? If the DOJ fines, and they're going to hit them with a fine, but culturally, beyond the compensation, just the simple fact that if this inquiry leads to the fact that the NBA, in fact, have done things to prevent Ice Cube's Big Three League from growing, from expanding, from being invested in, is how many of us are going to boycott the NBA? Boycott the NBA. Pastor, you said, Faraji, did you see the LinkedIn has banned Isaac Hayes III, founder of Fanbase? Same deal. And I'm glad you brought that up, Pastor Damon. If again, when we start stuff, we don't understand, y'all. We don't understand, see? We don't understand that sometimes when you start an alternative platform, and I'm saying this, we've talked about Big Three, now we talk about Fanbase, we can even go as far as to say Black Star Network, right? If it's not supported by the people, then guess what's going to happen, folks? It's going to get into a space where it leaves that institution, that space, that platform open to be destroyed by the big somebodies in the space. Now, that's why we always talk about, hey, look, Roland, you heard him. I talk about it everywhere on this space. We say, look, invest in Black media, invest, help us. Because at the end of the day, this is warfare. Business is warfare in America. It means that you're getting a piece of the American pie. It means that you got eyes on your product, your space, your platform, where somebody else has lost their potential customers, their potential revenue. It's warfare. So I'm very interested. I'm very interested that in seeing how this situation plays out. Kathleen, you say, I don't think my opinion matters here. What do the players say? Great point. Great point. Great point. Truth is power. You said, Faraji, good question. Boycott the NBA, not watch, take back our support in solidarity. I'm willing. I'm asking the question, would you boycott the NBA since the DOJ is looking into how it has possibly blocked the Big Three from growing and expanding and being invested into? How many of us are willing to boycott the NBA for this? How many players, going back to your point, Kathleen, would say, look, man, I'm not feeling this? It would be interesting to see what LeBron James says about this. Like, he can't play for his brother, but he can play for another league. It will be interesting. So we're going to keep our eyes on this whole situation, but I certainly wanted to bring it to our attention, to your attention, so that way we can understand this stuff is never ending, folks. When you're talking about creating a different reality for Black folks in this country, you better be prepared to go to war. It's just that serious. And It's that simple. It's not, they're not playing no games. If you got something to say, if you got something to offer, if you want to show Black America something different, then just understand that you will be criticized, you will be blocked, you will be canceled, you will be seen as a threat to somebody's agenda that's not in your best interest. And most of the time, those individuals with that agenda are the ones who have the power. So you're going to be seen as a threat. As many of us might say, well, it's just a small thing. It's not a small thing. The NBA started off small. The NFL started off small. Wall Street started off with a couple of businesses. The retail industry started off small. It's never just a small thing. When they see that you have the potential to grow and to be an alternative, a different vision, a different reality, some of these folks will take it to heart and will go to work to disrupt that. It will go to work which will disrupt that. And it's certainly about the money. Taylor, you said boycott, let's turn off the TV and spend time with your kids. No, we will see. Look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's have a conversation. Let's talk to Mr. Mark Buddington, who serves as the director of the Peacock film, Women of the Jury. Stay with us. That discussion is up next. Also, we're joined by my sister, Corinna Denise. So I would love to hear what you got to say. Stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Hey, Black, I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. And happy Friday, folks. Happy Friday. What a day and what a week it has certainly been. But I truly appreciate all of you for tuning in. Make sure y'all find out, y'all support us here on the Black Star Network. Go to our website today, download the app for free, follow us on social media under Black Star Network, and most importantly, give something to help continue to power this digital movement that we're in. So you can go to our website, you can see all the past shows that we've done. We can see all the special shows that we've done. We also have updated it with the Black Men's Summit that we did last week, which is still streaming, still running, and it still needs getting a lot of attention. So we have that. Of course, Roland Martin's content, all of that is all on our website at blackstarnetwork.com. And again, you can download the app on any device for free. And we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. All right, folks, let's talk a little bit. I'm going to switch gears before we talk to Mark Buddington. We're going to switch gears because I saw this story and I thought that this would be a great discussion to talk about the importance of preserving our history. And let me just say this before I go into the details of the story. This is one of those things where racism, white supremacy, runs so deep in this country, y'all. It's ingrained when we are born, and it becomes a nuisance even when we are dead and gone. Y'all hear me? That's how deep, that's how entrenched white supremacy and racism really is. All right, now use that as the foundation. As I talk to you about the story, and we got my sister Corinna Denise, who's going to be joining us in a few moments to kind of talk about this. Take a look, folks. This is coming from the city of New York, where a New York museum is looking to change the remains collection practice. Yeah, folks, this is coming out of the Griot. We saw this, but it speaks volumes. The American Museum of Natural History now holds around 12,000 sets of remains, including the bones of indigenous people and enslaved Black people. But now they're having an issue because they're trying to determine what's the best and most humane way to hold on to these remains, where a lot of these remains were taken. I'm gonna use that word, folks. This is exactly what it is. It's taken without the consent of the families of these individuals. All right, let me share this with you. Lisa, let's put this quote on the screen, please. The New York Museum announced this month that it is pulling all human remains from public display and will change how it maintains its collection of body parts with the aim of eventually repatriating as much as it can and respectfully holding what it can't. American Museum of Natural History President Sean Decatur, who in April became the museum's first Black leader, said that for the most part, the remains in the collection were acquired without clear consent of the dead or their descendants. He said, I think it's fair to say that none of these people set out or imagined that their resting place would be in the museum's collection. And in most of the cases there also was a clear differential in power between those who were collecting and those who were collected. White supremacy and racism run so deep, it affects us from the time that we're born, even until that day where we return to the earth. Let me bring my sister Corinna Denise, who's a college advisor, an advocate, and Culture Crew member, in on this conversation. Corinna, thank you so much for joining us. Happy Friday, Corinna. How are you?
Happy Friday, Faraji. Peace, crew.
Peace, 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 peace. All right, Corinna, this is your neck of the woods, New York.
Yeah.
This is also something that you are, that I wanted to have this conversation with you because, one, you had made that very, very instrumental trip across the waters, visiting the motherland, visiting the homeland of so much of our civilization.
Yeah.
And now I think you may have already been like a budding historian, but now I think you really,
I'm trying.
But I think now you really are like connecting the dots. What's your take of this? What do you think of this? How New York now, this museum, especially under the leadership of this first Black leader, is kind of like revising how they keep remains of people's bodies, especially when you're talking about indigenous people, which is our Native American folks, our Native American brothers and sisters, and enslaved Black people whose remains were taken without the consent of the dead or the families of the dead.
I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is respect, right?
Right.
And I'm really happy that the new leader is taking this initiative to, rightfully return these bodies. And, it stirred up some feelings in me, Faraji, when I first saw this article, not only because I lived in New York for 7 years, so I'm a New Yorker. I have been to the American Museum of Natural History many years ago. So I honestly can't recall if that was something that I actually saw. But to your point, being in Egypt, also known as Kemet this past summer, a lot of the folks on the tour with me, when we were in the National Museum of Egyptian Civilization and we saw the mummies, they're kind of like in a secluded room. That stirred up a lot of feelings in us, where it was just like, okay, we know this is historical. You're kind of seeing the concepts and the craft of how the Egyptians mummified the bodies. But at the same time, it just felt so disrespectful to have, their bodies on display. And we also raised the question, if these weren't Black folks, would their bodies be on display? It seems like we've always been, the entertainment, the exhibition, more so than a person, than a human being, an exhibit. So, I know personally I struggle with that. And then learning of this, what's happening in New York City, it kind of stirred up those feelings all over again. So yeah, I really do think respect. They did not get the permission of the families to have their remains in the museum, as a final resting place. And I think more often than not, it's always us, our people, who tend to be on display like this. And, again, it just made me really think about my time in Kemet and how, I was fascinated to see one of the rulers, right? A woman. I can't recall which dynasty or which kingdom, but she had braids in her hair, just like you see in mine, still intact, 4,000, 5,000 years later, and I had her in such awe, like, oh my God, like these are our people, you know what I'm saying? Like, no question, like I'm seeing it. How can they deny it? So, but it's one thing to have, those historical rulers on display and, they're kind of like in the secluded room, but at the same time, you can't take pictures and all of that, but their pictures are on the website of the museum. So even though you're not seeing it in person, you can still see their bodies or their mummies online. So it just stirred up all those feelings. But with these folks in particular, it's just like, why were they there in the first place? And I'm really glad that they're taking the initiative now to give them a proper burial place, respect. But yeah, I think you brought up a great point, how entrenched white supremacy is in this country, that from our conception almost, right? Even back during the enslavement, forced women to get pregnant and to bear children, right? And, all the way, through enslavement and then overcoming that. And then even in death, like there's still like this disrespect and desecration of our human bodies in particular. So yeah, I'm glad they're making this move, but yeah, I really just got to that place of feeling so uneasy, of being in awe, but at the same time, like, should I be seeing this? You know what I'm saying? Like, I would rather just looked at the glyphs on the walls than to
right. And see, look, we're going to take a quick pause, but it speaks volumes about this ongoing, I think, fight, conversation, the culture of the integrity and the autonomy of Black bodies, right? Like we have to understand that our very bodies is sacred,
right?
And so when you defile the human body, especially a lot of us who are, we're both, from even from a spiritual sense, right? Like the whole idea there, of course, there are some traditions where you don't even burn the body, regardless of if the person suffered from sickness or anything like that, that you don't burn the body. And so now it gets to a place that the bones, it's one thing you have a loved one die. It's another thing you can't even hold on to the bones because some museum made a deal to grab your ancestors' bones without nobody talking to the family.
Mm-hmm. You know, the same way that they ask for permission just for, artifacts that people may have possessed to put on display in the museum, you would think, right? But, for a human body, we're just going to take it.
No, they ain't going to do that. Because you know why? Because Corinna, it's black bodies.
Right.
It's black and our Native American brothers and sisters, our indigenous brothers and sisters, right? So we can just let's just lump them all in black folks, right? Black and red folks. So when you put bodies like that, nobody is thinking about us, man.
Nope, not at all.
Nobody's thinking about the fact that, you know what? Maybe I do want to hold on to my ancestors' bones. Suppose your ancestor was someone great and powerful, and you just grabbed up the bones, and you just move them into a museum, and then you ship them to another space, and then you ship them.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it does something to your spirit and soul when you can't lay your ancestors to rest in the proper way. Look, we got to take another pause. When we come back, crew, I'd love to get your take on this, as we talk about how One New York City Museum is looking to change its remains collection practice. And give me your thoughts on this. Talk to me and Corinna about this. Share your thoughts. We're streaming live on Roland Martin's YouTube page. And of course, stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Faraji Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking about how one New York City museum is looking to change its remains collection practice after looking and having a more, I guess, a moment of clarity, given the fact that a lot of these remains belong to indigenous and enslaved Black people. And so now the first Black leader of the museum, who is President Sean Decatur. He's the president of the American Museum of Natural History in New York. He became the museum's first Black leader in April and said that the remains in the collection were acquired without clear consent of the dead or their descendants. Now, the process, and I want to bring my sister Corinna Denise back into this conversation. Corinna is our Culture Crew member and joins us on Fridays. Corinna, very quickly, the process of pulling human remains from public displays, according to the reports, will impact 6 of the museum's galleries. They have found objects. Take a listen to this, Corinna. That a musical instrument made from a bone, a human bone, a skeleton from Mongolia that is more than 1,000 years old, and a Tibetan artifact that incorporates bones. So they have all of these different artifacts and pieces, but the crazy part of this is still human bone, right? Like this is not like stone, this is bone. So you're making instruments out of bones. And one of the things that was said in this report is that a lot of times you can tell those who were doing the collecting versus those who were being collected. So that's the thing. Now, here's the thing also, folks, I want us to keep in mind that there has always been conversations about bones and human remains. It always it's an ethical conversation within the anthropology space that a U.S. law that was passed back in 1990 created a legal process for some Native tribes to recover ancestral remains from museums and other institutions. In a letter to museum staff, President Decatur said about 2,200 sets of remains at the museum fall under that category. That Native tribes can retrieve those ancestral remains and give them back. 2,200 sets. Now, the reason that they decided to even move forward in this process of collecting bones, a lot of these bones were collected from the 19th and 20th century. And guess what, Corinna? They were collected by individuals who wanted to see, who were researchers looking to prove theories about racial superiority and inferiority through physical attributes. Racism, white supremacy is a hell of a drug.
We're always the experiment, aren't we?
Always the experiment.
The first one they'll think to take into the lab and just do some experimentation, dissection on, right? Something too in the article, Faraji, just reading, mentioning 12,000 sets. I was just thinking like, why? Like, what was the initial intention? Well, obviously, I think it was experimentation, that they're still there and they just took these bodies of people who lived, who breathed, who walked the earth. You know what I mean? Just no respect. It looks like some medical schools didn't want to respond when being, contacted for further details to see why, or, I wonder if they can even identify or even trace like who the blood relatives are, who should be still well and alive, right, Faraji? To actually give these people a proper burial. So there's so much that goes into this. And you know what? It's just so sad that we're in the 21st century and we still have to hear, oh, the first Black leader, and it takes the first Black leader to now come in and decide, you know what? Now that I have some leverage here, I'm going to do something about this.
And I'm happy. And look, I'm not even in that space, right? But guess what? That's what I was talking about in the previous segment. If you're going to put a Black person, a Black face in a position of power, man, do something that's going to change the game while you're in that position, right?
Absolutely.
There's no reason for you to be a manager, because that's essentially when you put Black folks in some spaces, we become managers instead of innovators. We become managers instead of visionaries, right? So we so happy to get the position and get the little extra paycheck on our paycheck. So we're not thinking of let me push the envelope a little bit. Let me push the needle that is in the best interest of Black folks in our culture. Let me do this. Let me make a little fuss about this, because this is in the purview of his work. I'm speaking of President Sean Decatur of the American Museum of Natural History. This is in the purview of his work. So if he brings some level of closure and justice,
yes, that would be significant. And
that's
also, it makes me feel, at least right now, that this man has some integrity.
That's
that
what I'm
he
saying.
cannot just be complacent to see and then be in a position to do something about it and then not do anything about it. So I think this is very important and significant. I would imagine that, this has been a conversation happening for years. But now it's become magnified. So I really look forward to seeing the outcome. And I hope that they are able to successfully contact some of the, ancestors of these folks, blood relatives, so that they can give them a proper burial. And as far as this, emptying out some of the museum's collections, there are plenty of other artifacts that they can collect to replenish. So,
absolutely.
I think that's the least of their concerns. You know what I mean? It's about the respect and the dignity of our ancestors and, giving them a proper burial. And I highly doubt, I hate to say it, but I shoot straight. I highly doubt we would see any white folks on display. I just don't see that happening. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong, show me I'm wrong, please. But just based on history and experience, I highly doubt that we would ever see that.
Look, I told y'all, racism, even when we dead. Taylor, you said inhumane, look like those carnivals and fairs with people on display. That's right. We have always been researched and studied. We have always been put on display from the size. I remember, and I forgot the woman's name, the sister's name, but they were talking about the first Black woman that was put on display at a carnival, at a fair, because she had a bigger backside. And so to white people, she was like a quote unquote, and I'm not using this to throw shade on our sister, on our ancestor, but she was considered to be like this freak of nature simply because of the size of her hips and her backside. So they would travel around the different parts of the country. Y'all can look up the history on this. Travel around different parts of the country to put her on display, to show her off, to expose her. Like, look at this individual, look at this person, right? And Sarah Baartman, thank you to my team. Sarah Baartman, y'all look at the story of Sarah Baartman. And this is a very real story. A Black woman that was used seen as a thing because simply of her body shape. And at the time,
because that's abnormal to them, so they decide to put it on display, but it's common to us as a people. But because we just seem so out of the ordinary for them, oh, you're foreign, you're ancient, you're odd, you're an object. You're not
absolutely. And the same thing, and team Lisa and Chris let me know, we're always up for research. I remember the sister that came from Baltimore that's been used as the prototype for the medicine and Johns Hopkins. And there's a huge conversation about Oprah Winfrey trying to pull out her story. But there's a Black woman that serves as the prototype for study. Henrietta Lacks. Thank you again, team. Henrietta Lacks, where they used her body, her cells, and it became really the foundation of a whole study of how to deal with human cells under different circumstances, right? So we're always being used, especially Black women. We talked about two, Henrietta Lacks and Sarah Baartman, but we're always being studied by this system of oppressors, and it's only right. It's only right. If the least that the museum can do under this President Sean Decatur is to return some of these ancestral remains to Native Americans,
that's right,
then we should be calling for that too.
Yes.
As Black Americans, we should say, wait a minute, hold up. So if enslaved Black people were a part of those remains, aren't we justified in getting some remains from our family?
That's right.
But if we're so caught up in just thinking about today and not thinking about the past. Because that's what the culture will do for us, right? Yeah. Corinna, like it will just keep us thinking about today and not thinking about what happened yesterday, or not even thinking about what's going on tomorrow. We're just thinking about today, then we're not having that conversation. But that's the conversation we need to have.
Well, you have to know your past to know where you are in the present and where you're headed towards in the future, right? You ever seen that movie Sankofa?
Of course.
Yeah, so it's like you got to know where you come from to know where you're going, right?
Absolutely.
And I hope New Yorkers will definitely, you know, stay abreast of this, get involved, and just Black people as a whole. Because again, and I just want to give some credit where credit is due. I'm glad that the new leader, and what is his name, by the way, Faraji?
President Sean Decatur.
President Sean Decatur, thank you for having integrity to take the initiative to do this, because I know a lot of times being in positions like that, there could be a lot of pressure, a lot of naysayers, but I hope that, you know, you will continue to move forward to make a wrong just. So
there it is. There it is. All right, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, let's talk to Mr. Mark Buddington, who serves as the director of the film Women of the Jury. We're going to talk to him about the film, talking about how we are, and it's important to tell our story on film, and a whole lot more. Stay with us, me, Corinna, and you. We're going to have this conversation with Mr. Buddington, and of course, we're going to have it just for the culture right here, exclusively here on the Black Star Network. We'll be right back.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig? When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Check some money orders. Go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is roland@rolandsmartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm joined by my sister, Culture Crew member Corinna Denise, college advisor and advocate, and budding historian. I'm gonna just throw that out there, just to throw that out there, because I know she loves the history. We are now going to be joined by our very special guest who serves as the director of the film Women of the Jury, that is now exclusively being shown on Peacock. And we're happy to have him joining us here on The Culture on the Black Star Network, Mr. Mark Buddington. Good afternoon, Mark. How you feeling, brother?
Hey.
How you doing?
So far, so good.
All right. Well, welcome to The Culture, man, and welcome to the Black Star Network. We've been trying to get you on for a minute now, and so I'm just happy that we finally had a chance to bring you on face to face. First and foremost, congratulations on the film being on Peacock and getting the type of exposure that it has gotten, Mark. So we that's a big look for and a big ups for the culture. Talk to us about this film and, more importantly, some of the big lessons you want us to gain from it.
Well, the film was, kind of where, like, you want to show women power on different diversity of women coming together and fighting for a cause to be able to make good decisions together, and trying to basically stand together as Black women. That was the main cause I was really going for. See how most Black women don't, especially in different age groups, they have different opinions on how things come out. And
Right.
if you notice in the actual film, there were different age groups and different age brackets. So, that's where you see the difference in the Black women, trying to make a decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you find, Mark, and then Corinna, I'm certainly open to any questions or comments that you have, but do you find that, talk to us a little bit more about the culture around telling the story of Black women in Hollywood today? Do you think it's gotten easier? Has it gotten harder? I mean, because there's more conversation about Black women, I think, right now in our culture than it has been ever before, right?
Right.
Whether it's when you're talking about making history, professional, personal development, I'm constantly seeing on my timeline, Mark, something about a Black woman. And I'm loving it, but at the same time, I know that it creates a lot of talk, a lot of controversy. Do you tell us about some of the energy around this film? Was it a little bit harder for you to tell these stories, or what?
Well, this story, when I first thought of the story, Maverick came to me with the idea, and they wanted to put something like this together. And my idea was right away, cool. Like, I know there's a lot of things that happen where Black people have problems, as far as if you look at even the case itself. The case was basically about two Black men. They go into the store, and they one was a bad guy, like he was trying to rob the store. Like, he had a bad day, he was trying to rob the store, as you can see. And it was a Chinese guy, a Korean guy, and he was in the store, and he tried to defend himself, and by mistake shooting one of the guys. There was like a scuffle over the gun and end up being shot. So, in that case, it was like the women, they wasn't there. There wasn't no cameras or nothing like that. And they had to come together as Black women to make a decision on, should this guy get away for killing our Black man? Or should they let this guy, get away with it? Or should they send him to jail and, on a death penalty? And as you notice, Black women get this thing where it's like they're very aggressive, or certain things, they all straight-minded or one way, and it's hard because you don't want to give off that race card right away, especially in this film. That's why I tried to make it to where they had some type of feelings or thought process, where it was actually intelligence of a conversation, of a thought process, where they wasn't just being racist to the whole situation. And I don't want to give away the ending. I want people.
Yeah, don't give away the ending.
Don't give it away.
But, it was definitely a good debate. It was really a good debate, and the women, they stepped up. And being a Black woman now, and this culture that we're going through right now, and it's hard because I know people didn't want to see 12 women just in general, just doing that. They're like, well, why wasn't no guys? And sometimes you have women that are going to step up to make that decision that guys wouldn't make the decision. It could have just been biased, and they was actually able to sit down, conversate, and come to a unanimous decision.
Hey, brother, I'm all for telling the story of women. And look, we're going to take a quick pause. Corinna, I know you got something to say because you over there testifying and all that type of stuff.
You know.
So we're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with director Mark Buddington. His film is Women of the Jury. It's streaming on Peacock. Make sure y'all check it out. But more conversation about women in film and, of course, about the culture when we return right here on The Culture, right here on the Black Star Network.
Yeah.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and my new show, Get Wealthy, focuses on the things that your financial advisor and bank isn't telling you, but you absolutely need to know. So watch Get Wealthy on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Faraji Muhammad, joined by my sister, Corinna Denise, one of our great culture crew members. And we're also joined by our very special guest, Mr. Mark Buddington, serving as the director of the film Women of the Jury. And Mark has made a film about Black women and talking about just some of the trials and some of the cultural challenges that Black women face, especially as it relates to this story. Corinna, what's your question for Mark?
Hey, Mark. I really like the name of the movie, Women of the Jury, and I really like the concept behind it that, you know, you're focusing on Black women. I'd also like to know, without giving too much away, as far as the judge, you know, will that play a role into this Black women jury? And also, what was your, you know, what's your end goal with the film to really focus on as far as Black women? Why tell this story through the eyes of a jury? You know, there were so many other ways to show maybe the struggles of Black women, how we think, how we move. What came to mind to put them in this legal setting to ultimately determine the outcome or the fate of, you know, two Black men?
Just in general, women are emotional. And you know, just having that situation where you're having women of the jury, you know, men don't think, like I said, most men are in a rush. You know, they don't actually think of it as a thought process to say, hey, let's come to this right conclusion. You know, women are more emotional. So with them, if you look at the film, I'm trying to avoid certain situations, but you know, sometimes it was an emotional standpoint where someone was able to relate to some of their family members who have been killed by another race and just overlooked, you know, and by them being able to not use that emotion and come to a standpoint of realization and, you know, showing the intelligence of the height level of not even able to fight, but stand there and get through a whole, like hours and hours and hours of debating in a deliberative room with 12 women at that. You know, of course there's going to be arguments, you know, and heated conversations, but, you know, for them to not actually fight and be grown women about it and to come to that decision of not of a race card and, you know, and just do the right thing. And like I said, I'm not trying to give that final answer, but just believe the Black woman did the right thing by being intelligent and not emotional about it and having a real thought process of a real conversation.
Hey, Mark, does this come in the same type of theatrical history of 12 Angry Men, that classic film 12 Angry Men?
Yes. So, you know, we kind of felt like there needed to be a remake, like I said. And the 12 Angry Men, you know, if you notice it, there was in the first one 12 white men, you know. And in the 98 version, they kind of like made it more diverse, where you did see Black men and they had them very vulgar and angry and you know, wanting to do things just for a certain reason. Where that now you have 12 women in the same position, and the outcome is, you know, what the outcome is going to be, but, you know, they have a different level of how they portray the situation of intelligence, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. Mark, talk to us, and me and Corinna and the crew, about, you know, you're a young Black man in this space, right? You're coming out with these films. You've actually been working in the industry for some time now. But how important is it that representation is there? Because we always seem to put a great emphasis on making sure that our people see Black men, Black women in a proper light. But I'm always kind of torn by that. I just to kind of give you a little backdrop, like when I was in high school, I went to School for the Arts in Baltimore for theater. Right. And, there's always people that's like, oh, we need to see Black folks in a positive light. But I'm like, telling stories is going to require us to not see Black folks in a positive light, right? Just for the interest of the art and the importance of storytelling. How do we walk that line? How do we present ourselves to the world as being this very powerful people, but at the same time still keeping the integrity of the storytelling process?
So as you can see, there's one character that I really focused on. I sat down with her. It's an actress named Kalima Gaddiston, and me and her like so cool. And we kind of like thought of this process because my thing was, I don't know if you guys seen the movie House Party 2. It was Zora. So I kind of brought that Zora character from college, and I brought her into this film. Like I kind of changed her, molded her a little differently. But me and Kalima kind of wanted to make this character where you're gonna see her be in those positions where she has an emotional standpoint for where she's fighting for our Black people. Like she doesn't care or how it is. Like she's gonna say how she feels. Like no matter what, even if it feels racist, even if it feels vulgar, she's gonna speak her mind all the way through and give you those emotional standpoint of how Black people, what we went through and how they see us, to where we gotta fight back and let them feel our pain, and give them the same results that they would give us. Like fry him. And that's how she felt, even if it was the Caucasian lady, the white lady, another friend of mine, Alex Carmes, who did a great job. And she was just going at her, and she made it real, where she was calling her even Karen. Like she wanted that race card. Like she wanted to pull people in to feel that there are people that feel that type of way. So we wanted to give those feelings. And like I said, I called the character Zara. So they wanted to bring it out.
Corinna, how does that resonate with you?
I mean, I just feel like, we're really out here, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, that, women, we tend to have we're a little stronger on the emotional intelligence side, per se. So
wait a minute, Corinna, what are you saying? Wait, hold on, Corinna. I'm starting to hear some man-hating vitriol coming out your mouth.
No man hating. I'm just saying though.
What do you say? You saying that women are more emotionally intelligent than men?
A little bit, yeah. I
don't know what man you talking to. You ain't talking to me and Mark.
I'm talking to you and Mark. It's just the truth. But hey, you're entitled to feel how you feel. But women, especially Black women, all day. But I really look forward to seeing the debates or the discussions per se, between all of those women sitting in the jury room, right, deliberating. And I think it'll definitely highlight, what those emotions feel like to be in that position, like you're holding someone's fate in their hands. And, what are they going through as individuals, as human beings, feeling that way, knowing that they have to decide what's going to be the outcome for another human being. So I'm really glad to see the focus on women. As a woman, I'm really appreciative of that. And like I said, I really look forward to hearing the debates and the discussions, like the dialogue, as far as the emotions and how they come to make, what ultimately has to be an informed decision, and kind of like the tug of war, the back and forth and the outcome.
Right. I want to also give a shout out to one of my writers that I work with a lot, Walter Fredericks, because sitting down with him, it was like really not like you said, it was a lot of heavy dialogue, and it wasn't easy because you want to make sure all of these women have different opinions and different emotions about it. So when I was casting, I was handpicking these women and making sure that me and him talk so that these women can deliberate exactly how they would look and feel at their situation.
And that had to be a process. And I know we got a few moments left, but I'm sure that had to be a very, very serious process to try to figure out. Like you have, and just to kind of give some folks some insight, this film is starring Drew Sidora Angela Black China White, Erica Pinkett, Alexis Lexi Walker. I mean, you have some very, very powerful, like, and I'm gonna say strong. I don't like to use the word strong, but very, very, what's the word? Vivid people.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of big emotions and everything, and you gotta kind of like condense that to the big screen or to the small screen, and it's like taking their personal lives and all of that stuff out of the picture so that people can see this character and see this one person and not think about, oh, it's Black China, the Black China.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's a whole process, I would assume, bro.
Right, because it wasn't easy, because working with these women, I had them also, put them in a space to where they was actually just that character being on trial, to fill that case. So when they actually, saw the actual trial, I had to show them the trial. We shot the actual case before we did it, and I showed them it so they can actually get the feeling of actually relating to a Black person being shot by mistake. And it's like, yo, like,
and that's your question. And Mark, I know we got a couple of minutes left, but did these women come to the table like having an understanding of the significance of being in the space, even though it's on film and this is part of the movie? But did they say, you know what, I remember a case that happened here, or did I remember the case that happened there? Do you find that those women were aware of those big cases, not just the big ones that we often talk about, George Floyd and others, but some case that really would help them in that process to remember?
Yes. So, like I said, me and Kalima Gaddison, like me and her, we kind of like went back to those cases that we had, like in the LA riots and the New York Times, where people were getting shot by the police, and just dealing with those different type of situations. Everybody didn't have a voice to be able to make these decisions to say, well, I'm in this trial to say, well, the cops are guilty, and now we have at least predominantly Black women on this case to have a decision, like you said, and being intelligent and not use just emotion to make a final decision.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Brother Mark, I want to say congratulations, Corinna. I know you probably got some quick thoughts. What's your quick take on this? Very quick. We got 30 seconds or so, Corinna.
Just quickly, I would imagine too that some of these women are probably characters from other maybe films or television work that maybe you like, that resonated with you, that you're displaying in your characters, or maybe even some women in your life. Just curious.
Yeah, but it's a lot of different characters that I see, and especially like working with them was really good because you want to try to build a good relationship with them to where where it's not all over the place, and it was just good, man. I want you guys to see the film, man. At this point,
all right, well, we're gonna check it out. Hey, Mark, very quickly, what's your next step? What's your next project, bro?
Well, my next project is I'm trying to work on like more films with women, of course, Black women, and putting them in different spaces to where they can grow as actresses. Like I'm working on this new film. We have a working title. I'm gonna shout it out now. It's called Sister Soldier.
Ooh.
So Sister Soldier is gonna be good. It's about a bunch of women in boot camp. And I'm gonna bring that good feeling back of when we had The Officer and the Gentleman and all that stuff like that, where we had Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington, and all those type of movies, bringing that feeling back in Sister Soldier.
Hey, so who's behind this? Who you got thinking of? You got some studios and you got some distribution?
That right there. I got to keep on the hush. But check out. I also got this other one called Slide. So Slide is also going to be a big one too. So.
Well, thank you for telling our stories.
I'm telling you. Hey, look, Mark, we got to keep in touch. We got to make sure we bring you back to as we move forward. Hey, man, you're doing it so big and you're doing it so important. And I'm glad that you're incorporating our sisters in this process. And thank you for being so good for the culture, Mark Buddington.
No,
we truly appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, Mark Buddington, director of the new film, Women of the Jury. You can see it streaming now, folks, on Peacock. There it is, right there. There we go. Right. Bringing on that New York horns right there.
New York horns. There you go.
right, Mark. Thank you, brother. Truly appreciate you.
All right, thank
Corinna, you're welcome. Corinna, thank you so much for your time today, sis. It's always a pleasure to be joined by you and your expertise.
And I hope I didn't step on your toes too hard with the emotional intelligence, but you know.
No, I mean, we just not friends after the show, though.
Okay, very good. No, we will be. You'll get over it. You'll get over it. It's all good.
See, I gotta have the emotional intelligence to even accept that. You're like, well, you'll get over it. You'll be good.
But I will say, you always hold us in high regard. So thank you for that.
Try to do my part. I'm trying to do my part, right? Change the game, break up the vicious cycle of disrespect. All right. Corinna Denise, thank you so much. Make sure y'all follow Ren on all social media platforms. Ren.
At Ren84. Thanks for IG. Peace, crew.
You're welcome. Peace. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank each and every one of you. Thank you so much, Culture Crew, for tuning in as always. Thank you to my dynamic production team. I want to thank King Keenan. I want to thank Joel and Shannon, Chris, and Maddie for joining us, as well as my producer, Lise. Thank you. Folks, make sure you go to blackstarnetwork.com, download the app, follow us on social media, and give something to help us continue this great digital space that we're in, to just find all of the dope content, all of the latest shows, past shows, the special shows that can all be found right now on blackstarnetwork.com. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. Make sure you follow me, yours truly, at Faraji Muhammad. I'm on Instagram at The Real Faraji. I love to connect with you. I love to build with you and so much more. So make sure y'all do your due diligence and follow me on Instagram and Twitter, as well on X, rather. And I would love to connect with you. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk on Monday for another exciting edition of The Culture, right here, exclusively here, only here on the Black Star Network. Stay tuned. Up next is Rolling On Unfiltered at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.